So I still see some people joining, but since we're just a minute after 10 o'clock and we have a lot to get to, we will kick things off here. So I'm happy to welcome all of you here today to our 43 North Small Business School. Thank you for joining for this first installment. I'm Maura Devlin. I'm the VP of Marketing and PR here at 43 North. This is the first installment in a series of workshops that are designed to bring you tips and best practices and ideas to really help to elevate your business and set you up for success. I just want to say, I know the bulk or all of the attendees here are likely small business owners or maybe working at a small business. And we know how hard you've been hit this year, or I guess last year, since we're in a new year finally. But I just want to say, at 43 North, we see you, we feel it with you. We here at 43 North, we are all about entrepreneurship. And, we know the grit and resilience that it takes for all of you to keep going right now. And I just want to say on behalf of the organization, we are rooting for all of you. And we hope that this is just a small way for us to be a resource for you in this really, really difficult time. I'm going to hand it over momentarily in a second here to Ashley Flanagan. Ashley is a creative strategist at a local agency here in Buffalo, Social Yeah. She is she put together here, her and her team have put together what I think is just a really great presentation that has 25 tips that you'll be able to take and apply to your social media, coming out of this today. So I'm really excited for all of you to see this. I'll officially pass it off in a second, just a couple housekeeping things to go over before we get rolling. We have reserved 15 minutes at the end of the discussion for a Q&A. So what I would say is just if you have questions as we go, just drop them into the Q&A box and I'll be tracking them, and then we'll cover as many as we can get to at the end of the presentation. I can see we have a couple hundred people on here right now. So I anticipate that we'll have a lot of questions, and we'll do our best to get through as many as we can. I just want to say I'm not going to be focused on the chat feature at all. So if you have a question as we go, just make sure you're dropping it into the Q&A, and that's where we'll be pulling questions from at the end. So I think with that, I would say school is in session, and I will hand it over to Ashley.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, as Maura described, basically we've put together a presentation here today that's really geared for small businesses and tips that you can take forward right away to implement into your social media practices. We really try to do this with the small business owner in mind. If you guys are anything like me, you might have been at webinars or sessions or workshops or things in the past where you might have walked away with like a big theory where it's like, okay, I know I need to be more authentic, but you don't necessarily know what that means. So we've kind of put together 25, even if they're just small tips that you can pretty much just walk away from this and implement. And hopefully you can find a couple tips that you can use right away. So I'm really excited about that. All right, let's get started. So just a little bit of a background about Social Yeah and our company, our agency. As Maura said, we are based right here in Buffalo, New York. We've actually been working for about 10 years. It started in 2011. We are a full service agency specializing in Facebook, Instagram, and email for the most part. We do dabble in a couple other areas as well, but those are really our core. And by full service agency, I just mean that we do everything from the initial strategy, we create content, we shoot photos, videos, we make ads, and we run ads on Facebook and Instagram. And then we also do community management. So once those ads are live, we also answer any questions on the page, things like that come in. We are an official marketing partner of Facebook, which is really exciting. I've had the opportunity to go to Facebook Toronto and Facebook Chicago for different workshops and opportunities there. And our agency as a whole manages around $1 million in Facebook ads annually. So I guess you could say we've had our fair share of practice with doing the paid ads on Facebook. We are currently a team of 9. We have account managers, designers, content creators, and we serve around 50 small businesses, mostly locally in the Buffalo area, but also nationally. We have one in LA, in Boston, in Atlanta, in a couple other areas as well. So we have quite a bit of experience there. And then just a little bit about me. So I have been at Social Yeah for almost 4 years coming up in May. I started off as a graphic designer, and then I molded that position into what we now call our content creator. So I basically took a camera and ran with it. I did a lot of photos and videos and created the ads and did a lot with the creative there. Eventually I molded into becoming our content manager, where I oversaw every piece of content that went out before it went to any of our clients and kind of did the internal quality control there. And then from there, I moved into what we now call the creative strategist position, which basically means I work a lot with our new businesses and trying to help our clients from the ground up as far as what their content should look like, any creative strategies that they can put into place as far as their game plans, things like that. I did go to St. John Fisher College. I graduated with a marketing degree, and I also had minors in strategic communications, art, and technology. So that background has kind of led me to where I am today. I love photography. I've always been from Buffalo, as you can see from that snowy photo there. Where else would you have that? And I also love to travel though as well. And you can frequently find me in Disney. I do love visiting my friends who work down there and all of their awesome Instagram worthy walls and foods and everything down there. I think it's just so much fun. And of course, I'm a huge Bills fan. I love to tweet about the Bills. I love to go to Bills games, and I'm really excited about how the Bills are doing this year too.
Hey, Ashley,
so
before you kick it off real quick,
Yeah.
we've had a couple questions, and I meant to mention this at the top of the call. We are recording this, so the presentation will be available at 43 North's YouTube channel, and we'll be sharing it with anyone that signed up for the webinar today. So you'll have access to it coming out of it.
Cool. Awesome. So as I'm sure, since a lot of you guys are here today, you know that social media can definitely be useful for business. So we'll kind of go through some of the ways that we love to use social media for business that people might not have even thought of before. Obviously, the first and foremost is connecting with your customers. We like to say that social media is kind of like creating your own little radio station versus in radio and TV when you have to keep buying the audiences to reach those customers. On social media, you can really build your own database and keep reaching them and keep having messages go to them as well. You can also use social media to boost company culture. If you get your employees involved, your team involved, have fun with it, they will enjoy seeing themselves on the page and sharing that they're part of this company. Brand awareness, obviously, especially if you're first starting out, a video describing who you are, telling your story, getting people to really know what your business is all about. Promoting events. I'm sure most of you, if you're on Facebook, you've seen some sort of Facebook event to get to come to a sale or some sort of big open house, things like that. It can also be used for virtual events. Showcasing products and services. This one's probably a given, but any like foods you have, any awesome products you have in store, you can showcase there. And then if you have an e-commerce site, you can link right to the website there and generate traffic to your website. And even if you don't have an e-commerce site, social media is still really useful. You can do in-store sales and coupons. We've seen this with restaurants offering $5 off a $20 meal, and they can screenshot the post and show it to their server and get the coupon via social media. Then these are kind of some bigger ideas. Lead generation, we've even seen social media be used for. We have a roofing client where we get free estimates and we just hit people as they're passing by, as they're scrolling to get people to sign up for a free estimate for roofing. And then also recruitment. This kind of goes hand in hand with boosting company culture. So if it kind of shows that you're such an awesome place to work, you can also run hiring ads on social media as well, which is a really big use for it as well, to kind of get those people who are passive job seekers and not necessarily the ones who are always on Indeed, things like that. So now that we know kind of some of the uses, today's agenda, we're really going to be diving into some tips to take with you that you can optimize your profile for success is going to be phase one. Then once that's all done, you want to make sure that you have engaging content, getting people to interact with you on your page. And then in phase three, once you have an awesome profile, awesome content, we'll dive into some tips to grow your following and hopefully get new customers out of that as well. And then as Mara said, we will have time for a Q&A at the end. So phase one is tips to optimize your profile for success. And our first tip is really to just start off by mastering one platform at a time, especially if you're brand new. A lot of people tend to ask us like, hey, what about TikTok? What about Snapchat? And while those are great, and I have a lot of fun consuming content on there and they're great for inspiration, they haven't necessarily proven the return yet for small businesses. So we definitely say, focus on where your customer is. And a lot of times your customer is the mom of the household, right? It's the one who has the disposable income and the one who might enjoy shopping. And she's generally on Facebook and Instagram still, and not necessarily those other platforms. So once you can master how to talk to her there, then you can move into customizing your content for these other platforms later on. Just because people do consume content differently on all of these different platforms as well. Then, so you'll see that a lot of our tips will be geared towards Facebook and Instagram. So just starting off here, we're going to start with your username. It should be clear, easy to pronounce, easy to remember. You can see here, Mark Zuckerberg's username is literally Zuck. Very short, very easy to remember. Once you have too many punctuation marks or symbols, underscores, if there's too many of those, it becomes hard to remember. And it's actually harder for like word of mouth. If you're saying, hey, follow me at so-and-so, if you have all these punctuation marks there, it makes it harder for that person to remember. Next, your profile picture, we like to either do your logo. If it's a personal brand, a clear headshot, and this should be your shoulders up, not necessarily a full body shot, just because it does appear very, very small on your phone. Or a signature product. So if you're really known for like one product, I would definitely recommend having your profile picture be that product. But again, no full body shots or group shots. That can be really hard to make out once it's small on your profile. Next, I personally love this tip. This one is having keywords in your name. So not necessarily your username. You can see where the arrow points here. The name on your profile. So this is both for Facebook and Instagram as well. So Designs by Juju is one of our clients. She does digital embroidery designs, but the name of our company is obviously Designs by Juju. But the person who's going to be most interested in this is someone who's going to be searching embroidery. So by putting embroidery in her name, it helps with that search optimization of people searching embroidery on Instagram. And an added bonus is that people also immediately know what your company is about as soon as they arrive on your profile. So any sort of keywords that you can put in there like that. So for our example, we have social media agency in our name as well. Next, this is your bio. So I like to always make sure that you cover the 3 W's, who you are, what you do, where you are, especially if you're just like a local business. So in our profile, we have Buffalo, New York, what we do, Facebook, Instagram, and email. We're official marketing partner at Facebook. And then you also have the opportunity to do a link in bio. And a lot of people might not necessarily think too much about this and like, okay, I'll just put my homepage there. But this is amazing real estate. This is the first thing that people see when they arrive in your profile. And a lot of times you can put something even more relevant in this space. So if you're doing a sale on a specific product, you can put that link in your link in bio for the time being. And then make sure that you have a CTA, so a call to action of why someone should click that link. Don't just have the link sitting there and expect people to click it just because it's there. Make sure that you say, shop our 30% off sale happening now with an arrow, kind of like how we do in ours. So we have our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group where we offer a lot of tips for small businesses that if you guys aren't part of yet, you might want to join too. We have a lot of tips similar to this. So we have a CTA of join our new Facebook group for free daily tips with an arrow to that link. This is our last big one for the profile, and this is highlights. This one's pretty much an added bonus. It's not a necessity necessarily on Instagram, but it does help make your profile look really professional and have a really nice presence when someone arrives on your profile. And I like to think of this like it's a catalog for new followers. The only time I really look through an account's highlights is when I'm arriving on their profile for this first time. So try not to have it be too long. I've seen some profiles have like 10 highlights and I'm like, I'm not watching all of these. So I tend to do 4 to 5 highlights is kind of my sweet spot there. And if you can't think of what those highlights should be, a lot of times they can align with your web tabs. So on your website, if you have an about us, our products, our services, things like that, they can align with your highlights. And it can be that catalog there that really coincides with your website. Because in this day and age, your Instagram is kind of like your homepage of your website. More people might even be going there than your website. So phase 2. So once you have your profile completely set up and you're feeling good about it, you want to make sure that you have really engaging content to get people to interact with you. So this is the first tip, and it probably seems a little simple, but it's a big one. And this is to have smiling humans in your photos. So you can see the difference in the feeling between looking at these two photos. Obviously, they were taken at the same exact place. But one, while it's murals and it's colorful and it's fun, it still seems kind of cold in a way. And I don't really have any emotion looking at it. I might just be like, oh, that's nice. Versus the one where you get a face in it. You feel a lot happier just looking at it, and it helps tell the story behind you're there and it's your story. There was a study that was done actually by Georgia Tech that said photos with smiling faces in it are 38% more likely to get likes and 32% more likely to get comments. So it tells a more powerful story, and an added bonus as well is that it also, if you get your team in it, it boosts the company culture there and your morale there. And this can be applied to basically any industry too. I know a lot of times with like restaurants, the thought is just to go, excuse me, to have pictures of food all the time. But if you can have like the chef holding a plate of food and telling the story behind why it's their favorite dish, that is a really much more powerful story that you can tell there. The next one is to shoot vertically. So these videos you can see on the phones, the one that's shot vertically, the one on the left, takes up a lot more space on the phone and is a lot more immersive. So the really cool thing about that is that it totally takes up the entire space versus you can see the one on the right. I sort of see a little glimpse of the next post going on. I might be distracted. And so the one on the left, I'm totally immersed. I'm stopped. I'm like, whoa, what is this going on? This can be the case for both videos and photos. So these were shot on a camera. So on a traditional camera, we just turned it sideways. But a lot of times if you're using your phone, you can just use your phone straight up and down rather than turning it sideways. Next, catch attention in the first line. This one is huge. When you're writing your post copy, keep in mind that there is that see more button. So that usually appears on the third line on Facebook and sometimes even sooner on Instagram. So you really want to make sure that you catch attention in the first line, and also make sure that people know what you're talking about in at least the first 2 lines. So to catch attention, we like to either make it exciting. If it's a big announcement, you can say something like big news, Buffalo. If you're trying to talk to a specific person, you can call out that audience, like calling all parents, this is for you. Or you can ask a question. If it's an event going on, you can say, who needs plans this weekend? And be like, I do, I need to read this. Next one is to ask questions. So a lot of times I feel like we try to get caught up in being really clever and being really creative on social media, which can work, but then we might lose sight of what social media is really made for, and that is conversation at the end of the day. So you really want to be asking questions to try to get people to comment, get people to engage with you. And the biggest way to do it is to ask a this or that question, which might seem a little bit elementary, but it's what works. So for a retail store, you can do vote, which color jacket do you like? For a restaurant, if you sell chicken wings, you can have flats or drums. Do you eat mac and cheese with a fork or spoon? Yes or no? Do you eat the pickle? While these seem simple to us, that is really what you need to do in order to get people to comment. Keep in mind, people are scrolling so fast in people's attention spans that if they have to think for more than like 2 seconds, they're not going to even bother to answer. They're just going to keep scrolling. So if you say, what's one memory you have from your childhood of this, and it's hard to think about it, it's going to be a lot harder to get comments. So we try to give choices and not necessarily leave it open-ended. Next tip, this is showing behind the scenes. So I like to do this because it feels really real, and it helps you kind of tease what's going to happen before you have the official thing going on. So you can use behind the scenes to tease new content coming, tease new products. You can maybe show like a box, stocking inventory, get some excitement going around before you have the official perfect photo of it. And keep in mind, a lot of people do relate to reality and not perfection. So don't worry about everything being so perfectly placed. A lot of people want to see what's really going on in your company and kind of get that excitement behind what's real and not necessarily what's perfect. This one was huge during the pandemic, especially writing a personal message from your company. So you'll see a lot of these tips do tie into this theme of like being authentic and being human. So this one was really big during the pandemic, like I said, to thank customers for their support. In the start of 2021, where we are now, you can use it to be optimistic and say what you expect in 2021. You can also use it just to introduce yourself and the story behind your company and get people feeling connected to you and wanting to support you as well. Going live. So this one, I love when people go live. People actually watch live videos 3 times longer than regular videos. So when people sit down to watch a live video, their attention span is usually much, much longer. And you can get real-time feedback from your customers. So if you're showing off different products, you can kind of gauge in real time how excited people are about a specific product. And it can actually help you in the long run make business decisions about, okay, maybe I want this product featured in the front of my store, things like that. And there's also a lot less stress on perfection when it comes to lives. I think a lot of people kind of get nervous about the idea of going live because, they're like, what if I stumble? What if I do this? But the reality is with lives, the realer, the better. People aren't expecting this perfectly produced thing. They're expecting just to watch you in live time. So then once you have this content here, some ideas to also help with your engagement. And one is tagging locations. This is huge to get people to land on your profile from the Explore page, especially on Instagram. I know I was talking to someone who was a small business owner, and they said they were looking at their analytics, and a lot of their followers actually came in through from the location tag. So especially if you have anything that's local. For us, we like to check into West Seneca or Buffalo to really help in our storytelling too, that we're Buffalo proud and we love being from Buffalo, and that helps get excitement as well. Next, with your content, also use relevant hashtags. I know a lot of small businesses tend to use the max amount of hashtags, 30 hashtags, which is great too. But what we really like to do is stick to the ones that you would actually consider following and interacting with yourself. The reason being is because as much as you care about the quantity of likes at the end of the day, you want to see a good number of likes and everything. That's more a vanity metric. You're more concerned about the quality of the people who are coming in through those hashtags. So if you just do hashtag pumpkin, you could be getting someone from the other side of the earth interacting with you who will never become your customer. Rather, if you want to get the people coming in from hashtags that will actually likely to become your customer, we stick to ones like hashtag Step Up Buffalo, IGers Buffalo, Buffalo, things like that, that someone from Buffalo would actually follow. So if you yourself would be like, why would I ever follow this random hashtag like smile? Then it's probably not worth putting in your post. Posting at active times will also help with engagement. When in doubt, we like to stick with the prime times. If you think about when the prime times are on TV, when your favorite TV shows are on, they're usually on around 8 p.m. On a weeknight. And that's because TV knows that's when people are winding down and they tend to have a little more attention on things like their favorite shows. Same thing goes for social media. So we like to stick to around 8 p.m. when in doubt. But you can also look at the Insights tab, both on Instagram and on Facebook, and see when your specific audience is the most active. And you can do this by day and use that information to know when to post. Next, once your content is out on the page and you're getting a little bit of engagement, make sure you show your listening. So make sure that once someone does comment, you're liking that comment, you're answering any questions that come in, and you thank people for sharing if they tag a friend. There is like this sort of special magic behind when people or when a brand replies to you on social media. You tend to really feel good about it. And when you see that brands do reply, you're more likely to engage yourself. So I know a lot of times, like the Buffalo Bills on TikTok, at least, they tend to be really good at replying to people, and a lot of people just want to get a response out of them, and it just encourages more engagement down the line. So it's really cool. And then use your insights to also know what your followers like. So this, again, on your insights tab on your profile, once you go on your profile, you'll see there's an insights thing. It's about in the middle of the profile there. You can go to your posts and actually sort it by the best performing based on any metric that you like. So for this example, and in the example we have here, we sorted it by post interactions. So this is kind of all encompassing of likes, comments, saves, that sort of thing. And you can do it in any given time frame. So we said the last year. And looking at this here, I can be like, wow, 8 of the 9, or however many it is, of our top performing posts are geared around Buffalo. Maybe that's what we should be talking about, really exciting things about Buffalo. If you're a store, you could be like, wow, a lot of my top performing posts have this specific product in it, or a restaurant has this specific food in it. And you can use that information to really decide how you want to continue to make your content moving forward, rather than trying to wake up and be like, what should I post? Look at the trends, try to figure out if there are any like buckets that you can make of like, I want a post that has this in it, a post that has this in it, and a post that has this in it. And that will really help you with planning your content as well. Okay, awesome. So we're now into phase 3. So we have a really awesome profile. We have some content that's getting some engagement. We're really excited about it. Phase 3 is try to expand even beyond that and grow our following and get new customers as well. So the first and foremost, this kind of seems like a no-brainer, but I think a lot of people tend to forget about this. And this is just asking your friends and family, but asking them personally is huge. So a personal email, a personal text, or obviously in person with them as well. Just a quick anecdote is that I had a friend who started his own company, and he followed me from the profile, but I had no idea that it was even him. And luckily I did some digging and figured out, oh wow, this is my friend, and I wanted to support him. But it would have been a lot different if he had texted me and been like, hey, it means a lot if you could just like this really quick and follow me along for the ride. I would have felt a lot more invested, I think, in it from the beginning. So getting those supporters on your side by personally asking them is huge. Next, interacting with other businesses. So again, communication is a two-way street. So if you want people to engage with your content, you want to start to try to build your own tribe of people that you can also support and they can support you back. So one big tip that you can do is explore accounts in either complementary industries. So let's say you're a salon and there is a local makeup person or a product that you use. You can interact with them and make sure that you're supporting them and they support you back. And another one is people who are using similar hashtags as you, people who might be using hashtag BuffaloLove. Interact with them and try to support them back. And then also just liking and commenting on posts from neighbors or other businesses in your community. If there's other businesses down the street from you or in the same plaza as you, getting on the same page with them and supporting each other is only going to help everyone in the long run. Reposting and encouraging user-generated content is also huge once you kind of get your feet off the ground. So user-generated content just means that this is photos and videos that your customers produce, and they're just really excited about your food or your product or your services, and they tag you in it. So you could check your tags, you could check your mentions, and any location check-ins to see if there are any user-generated content that you can use. And reposting this content and thanking them for posting it increases the chance that other people are going to want to do the same. And ultimately down the line, it's just going to increase your word of mouth, because the more customers you have posting about your business, the more their followers are going to want to check it out. And it's just this awesome snowball effect that will happen. If you do repost any user-generated content, Make sure that you always, always, always credit the original. You never want to be stealing content. You want to make sure you make people feel special and that you give them a shout out. Using giveaways as a catalyst is a really big one that we love to do to grow followings. I'm sure a lot of you, if you're on Instagram, you might have seen this before. And this is offering a gift card or a popular product to people who like and follow your page. So we done this in this example. This was for the Curtis Hotel, and obviously they were giving away a staycation, which is a huge prize, but I've seen it work for a $25 gift card or even just a small product, as long as people have excitement around it and it's something that people genuinely want, it's going to work. So just make sure that it's clear that it's a giveaway. We like to put the word win right on the photo. And if not, make sure that you at least start it off in your copy with the fact that it's a giveaway and, chance to win. And then if you do this as well, make sure that you have some sort of official rules with your end date, a prize value, how you'll contact the winner. You don't want it to kind of just be out there and just be like, a winner will happen when it happens. You need to make sure that you are following through and contacting the winner and making sure that there's an end date as well. And then finally, once you feel really confident about all of these things that we've been talking about, these last 24 tips, the biggest one that we love, and this is something that we really specialize in as well, is doing paid ads. So you can actually boost posts right within the app. And this is what I would recommend if you haven't ever done one before. A lot of times you'll see a little message that might pop up on one of your photos that says this post is performing really well, promote it to reach your wider audience, and then you can boost it right from there. And you can choose the demographics, the interests, the locations that you want to do. If you're a restaurant, you can choose within 4 miles, 5 miles, however far you feel like people will travel to come to your store or restaurant. You can pick a certain age range, things like that, and get new followers to hopefully recognize your page. You can also boost this to page followers who might have missed it before, so some sort of familiar audience there. And again, this can be done right within the app, but then I have my bonus level. So this is a little bit more advanced, and this is something that our agency really specializes in doing, and this is more on the retargeting aspect. So once you've kind of mastered all of that, people who do visit your page and engage with you, and maybe they even clicked on your website, you want to make sure that you're retargeting to those people until they eventually make a sale and hopefully come back to you for a future sale as well. So retargeting, collecting emails in store is really big. You can send them email messages then, and you can also upload those emails to Facebook and Instagram to retarget them. And you can advertise to users who have visited your website, added to cart, watched a video, engaged with your page. So all of this work of getting engagement, getting followers can be put towards this in the end. This does require a Facebook pixel, which is like a little tracking code that you can put on your website to communicate with Facebook, and an ad account to do this as well. But this is kind of like the bonus level that eventually you would love for your small business to get to. All right, so that is pretty much all that I had for those 25 tips. I hope you guys find them useful. Hopefully there's at least a couple that you are excited to implement right away, and we can open it up to questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ashley. Awesome tips and advice. And I would just say, for everybody, we'll get to questions, but you should all just don't be shy or afraid to just start putting some of these to use. The best way to become a social media ninja is to just do it. Just go and don't be scared about it. So we'll jump in here. We got a bunch of questions to get to, and I'll try to get to as many as we can. First up, someone said, I sell B2B professional services, and my target prospect demographic is only about 500 companies in Western New York. Mm-hmm. Can targeted Facebook ads be used to go after business owners with that small of a target market?
So the answer is sort of yes and no. We tend to get a little weary with business to business, only because when you're trying to reach a business owner, those tend to not be the people who are constantly scrolling on their phones, and business to consumer is obviously, there's a much wider range of people. You still can though build a presence and make sure that you kind of have at least that presence there. So for example, Social Yeah is business to business. We only have so many clients in Western New York, and there's only so many business owners that would come to us, but we make sure that we have that professional presence there, and we explain what our story is and what we do, so that when people do arrive on our page, they can see that right away. But yeah, you can do different targeting as far as like small business behaviors, things like that. But again, the audiences will be really small. That is correct. Yeah.
We've had a couple questions, Ashley, about, I think it was tip number 6, the link in bio.
Yes.
Can you go back to that and maybe just talk a little bit more about that? And some other questions connected to that is, someone asked how they can link from when they're posting on Instagram. So could you just explain how that works and, what the threshold is for a business when they can start actually having the swipe up function?
Yes. Okay. That's kind of a lot in one. But so first of all, when you post on Instagram, the links, if you try to do it just within like the copy of your post, a link is not clickable within a copy. So a lot of times people, when they post, they'll say, use our link in bio to shop this. And then they can update that link that's at the top of their profile in their bio to be that specific product, or whatever it be. There are advanced services as well. I know there's one called Linktree, and Later does this as well, if anyone's interested, where you can actually align basically like a web page to look like your Instagram feed, and someone can click on a picture and it'll take them to that page. I know it's probably hard to imagine without seeing it, but that is something a little more advanced. If not, what I would just recommend doing is anytime that you want to make sure that you're talking about a product that you want to link to, you could just update that in real time, and say, check our link in bio to click on it, just because it's not clickable within the post. As far as a story goes, so the threshold there, I think, is the question of when can I do a swipe up in a story? So if you're just posting organically, meaning no ads or no paid aspect behind it, the only people who can have links in their stories are those with 10,000 followers or more, which obviously most small businesses aren't really at that level yet. But you can do an Instagram story ad, and you can pay to link to a specific product and then run that ad to unfamiliar audiences nearby.
Kind of 2 follow-up questions to that, because I've seen a couple just around this. Can you just explain how to add a bio to your profile?
Yeah, so I'm gonna actually go on my phone really quick just so that I can tell you the exact steps. So if you are on your profile, for example, I'm on Social Yeah's profile, there is a button there that says edit profile. And then once you click on that, there is a bio section. And so everything here where you see from basically from Buffalo to New York down to the free daily tips, that's all in our bio. And then in the link, that's under where it says website.
And one more question here, Ashley, and I think this is pretty much, I'll let you answer it, I guess, but the point of just driving engagement. Someone asked, a couple of people asked, it's often really difficult. I might have 2,000 or 3,000 followers right now, and it's a tough climb to get up to 10,000 followers. Are there any suggestions for how to gain, a higher volume of followers than just a handful at a time? Or is it really just that you have to just like commit and stick to this whole idea of creative content and posting, on a regular cadence drives engagement?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, even though we're trying to give you some like immediate quick tips here that you can implement, social media is a marathon, and you want to make sure that you have consistent content that's high quality, and making sure that you keep your followers engaged and give them a reason to follow. You want to make sure that they enjoy following you, and it's not just like constantly hitting them with a sale. I think that's really huge, is again, making it feel human, making them feel connected to you is really big. But as far as any like kind of like the quickest growth, I would say the biggest thing I would say, and I'm just going to scroll really fast, is the giveaway that we have found is kind of one of the quickest ways to grow your following. And you can also ask people to tag a friend. I would just be careful not to have too much criteria to enter. I've seen some giveaways where they're like, tag 10 friends and share this on your story. And at that point, I'm like, I don't even have 10 friends to tag, right? So you could do tag a friend and make sure that they follow you to enter. And that is probably the best way that I've seen to get a good influx of followers right away. But like you said, Maura, it's definitely a marathon. And you want to make sure that you don't lose those followers too. So you want to make sure that you have good, engaging content that will keep them there.
And Ashley, how often would you say that people should be posting? You know, if you give an example, I guess, in terms of, you know, Instagram, how often should I post to my stories? How often should I post to my newsfeed? Is it like a hard and fast thing, or how do you figure that out?
Not, yeah, there's not really any like clear, like this is the best practice sort of thing. I feel like it used to be back in the day, it used to be like post every single day. And it's definitely not that anymore. If you have good quality content, as far as posting on your profile, I think you can get away with like 2 to 3 times a week. Even I've seen even some businesses have success with like once a week, but then keeping up to date on their stories. So the stories are the quick things that kind of just the day-to-day that aren't necessarily the highlights of your business that you don't necessarily need to live there forever, but they kind of keep your customers connected with you. So if you kind of can keep up consistently on those, you could definitely get away with less quantity on the profile.
Is there ever a thing as posting too much from a business?
I would say yes, actually, because I think there is a cost of attention. You don't want to like bombard people, especially with messages that they're just not interested in. I think a lot of times we try to like appease everyone and we try to have like this piece of content is going to be for this person. And then I want this person and this person and this person. Really, if you can hone in and narrow down on like the one or two maybe ideal customers and talk to them and keep them engaged, that's going to be your best bet rather than trying to keep everyone happy and bombarding everyone with all these other messages that just aren't applicable to them.
Any tips for how you deal with negative comments on your page?
Yeah, so community management is definitely huge. When negative comments come in, I would definitely just make sure that you take a moment to like reflect and say, okay, are there only 1 or 2 negative comments? And a lot of people are really excited about this. Is it majority negative? Because we tend to get distracted by like the 2 negative comments, even if there's like 500 people that are really, really excited. On Facebook, I will say, if it's something that you don't want other people to see, we tend to recommend not to necessarily delete, because then the customer knows that you deleted their post and they could just get angrier. So what you can do is use a feature called hide. And that means that only they, the poster, and their immediate friends know that they commented that. So if they said something that kind of made them seem like a jerk, only their immediate friends can be like, well, that person's a jerk, just for lack of better terms there. Or if it is bad, make sure that you take it offline too. So a lot of times what we recommend is saying, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Give us a number or DM us with your number and we'll make sure that the right people reach out to get this taken care of.
Yeah, and I would just add to that too. I think especially if it's something that you can provide an answer to, or maybe it's just a mistake that happened at the business. Like that's okay to take ownership of it. It's good for your community to see that level of customer service. And oftentimes, sometimes things just get elevated and you have somebody trolling your page. They're just not going to go away. And that's when I think it's a good move to take it to use that hide tool.
Yeah.
Another question here, and you kind of talked about this a little bit, but maybe spend a little more time. People often talk about trying to outsmart the algorithm. So can you just talk a little bit about why are my followers not necessarily seeing my posts? If I have family and friends that they follow my business, but they often tell me they don't see the posts until they search for the salon or the restaurant or whatever it is.
Yeah, so the algorithm is ever changing, and I think we're all just trying to really figure it out. It used to be chronological, so you would basically, is whatever time you came on, that depended on what content you saw. Now, it really depends on how much you engage with that page. So the more that someone engages with you, the more likely they're going to see that content in your algorithm, which is why I had one tip in here about making sure that you engage with others as well, because the more that you have that two-way communication too, and you engage with them, they engage with you, Instagram's going to be like, oh wow, these two people are close, they're friends. I want to make sure that they see each other's content. So making sure that you kind of give that back is definitely a big thing. But that's probably the biggest one that I know of, is just the engagement there. And also keep in mind that sends and saves are also big engagement factors as well. So it's not all just likes and comments. I know I personally, even just the way I personally use social media is I'll send my friends a lot of things like behind the scenes, and the business might not even see it, but that will be like, that's an indication that I enjoy that content too.
Another question that came in, I feel like I'm on WGR, like taking the calls for the bills. Relatable right now,
Great.
maybe not. Another question that came in, is there a limit to how many contests that you can run per year?
No, there is no limit as far as I know of. We try to stick, I wouldn't do more than like once a month. This is just my recommendation, just because there comes a point where you're like, okay, they literally do this every week. Like it just becomes like that cost of attention, and people just aren't as excited about it anymore. So I would just be careful not to do it too much, because you do want to make it a special thing when you do it. And then there are some rules in the Facebook policies too, that you can, if you Google it and search it for on Facebook, you can find it as well. That I would just be aware of as well, is that you can't, on Facebook, you can't ask people to like share it on their own profile, just because that's private. So that's just one other thing I wanted to add. So that's why we also make sure the criteria to enter is really simple, just like follow and like.
A question here about tagging the location. Should we only tag a location we are in at that time? So if somebody has a customer base that's nationwide, they're wondering if they shouldn't be putting Buffalo, New York, because it makes it too hyper local.
I think that's a good question. I think because it aids in storytelling, I don't think it hurts to have a location on there, and it kind of tells a story of like, okay, like they're Buffalo based. It definitely doesn't hurt it any more than not tagging a location at all, just because if you don't tag a location at all, no one's going to necessarily discover it from a location tag. So I would say at least you're getting that from it. But I know nationwide's a little bit trickier with that, just because obviously you want to make sure that you're reaching everyone. But,
yeah, and I would add to that, Ashley, I think it just depends on whether or not you care or want people to know that you're in Buffalo. In certain instances, or with companies that I've worked with before, they want to have that perception of like a national or a global reach. So we might not tag that location where they are.
mm-hmm.
Can we talk a little bit about hashtags? We've gotten a bunch of questions on those. One of them is on Instagram. How is tagging your location different from a hashtag?
Yeah, so basically they're just in two different areas. So when you're tagging a location, when you click on that location, you'll see everyone who checked into that place. And then it also is more likely. So if I live in West Seneca, then if I'm scrolling my Explore page, if I'm really bored and I'm just on my Explore page, I'll see more posts that are checked into West Seneca. Versus a hashtag is something that basically anyone can see, anyone can search them, anyone can follow them too. This is a big one, the difference between, because you can't follow a location tag as far as I'm aware, but you can follow hashtags. So if I wanted to follow all of the awesome photos about Buffalo, I might follow hashtag IGers Buffalo or hashtag visit Buffalo Niagara, something like that. And there are people who do follow hashtags. And so that's why you want to make sure that you keep them relevant and that they're actually ones that you would consider following yourself, and not necessarily like the general just hashtag smiling girl, something like that. It's just, you're not going to get the right quality of the person that you want to see it.
Somebody asked if they have to use hashtags.
You don't have to. Actually, in a lot of our posts, we might not. But I think if it's something that, if you're really interested in getting more engagement and trying to expand your reach as much as possible, hashtags are a great way to do so. Especially if you're only doing a couple. I know sometimes if you have like 30 hashtags, it can look really tacky and people just might not like the way that that looks. You can also do it in a comment. You can hide it in a comment too if you're concerned about that. But they do help, and you can actually see if you go to your Insights tab, you can see how many of your likes or followers came through from a hashtag, how many came through from a location tag. It'll tell you basically where these people are coming in from. And I have noticed that when we do certain hashtags, we see more engagement than other times.
Another question that came in, is it okay to ask employees to share social posts on their own accounts to try to gain followers and drive engagement?
I mean, yeah, I think if it's something that they like would want to share, I guess, like if it's something that's like company culture and it's like, yeah, let's get everyone to share this, I wouldn't necessarily make it a requirement to be like, you have to share every single one of our posts, just because then it just invades their personal lives and they just might be like, this is annoying, I don't want to do that. But if it's something where there's a lot of excitement behind it and you want to make sure that you can kind of rally a team behind you, I would have at least a couple key people on your team who can kind of help spread the word with that.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, just be mindful of, the business versus an individual. And so if you are going to ask your teams to engage or your employees to engage, in the social space, that you make sure they understand any protocol or parameters that you might have about how they interact and what they should be, the tone or how they should be talking when they're representing your brand online. And it's a really fine line there. So just keep that in mind, because it's easier to control your business from a brand perspective than it is to control a whole team of people that might be talking, on your behalf or saying things that maybe you don't want them to say.
Yeah, that's why too. I think if you have like a couple key like trusted people that you're like, okay, you guys are going to be like my like hype ambassadors, like that sort of thing. And you can like trust them with the tone and everything, then you're good. But yeah, like Mara said, I would be careful just to open that up to everyone.
Couple more questions and we'll just keep going. We still have a few minutes to wrap up here, but I think there's some good stuff coming in, so I'll just keep it going. Somebody asked, are hashtags important only on Instagram, or can they be helpful on Facebook as well?
So I would say that they definitely make a much bigger impact on Instagram than Facebook. You can use them on Facebook. I know at least the way I personally use Facebook, I would never really discover ones based on hashtags. So we tend to not really do it unless it helps in like the storytelling. And like if we do hashtag like let's go Buffalo or something like that, then we'll use it on Facebook as well. But as far as like for the masses, for the most part, they definitely have a much bigger impact on Instagram than on Facebook. LinkedIn, I know we haven't talked about that at all, but they are definitely a big factor on LinkedIn as well, and Twitter.
We've gotten a couple questions just about people asking about, their personal social media presence versus having a business profile, for example. And I think in some instances, people, built their business by tapping into their own personal social media handle. So they're saying, should they kind of abandon that? Is it important that they have like a separate business profile? Or do you just have any thoughts about that? And I know it's a case by case thing, but.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it really depends on like the case there. I would say like if you already have all of this like drive behind you and this like following and engagement behind your personal brand, I think there is something to say about the fact that people do relate to like humans too, rather than like this like perfectly branded like page sometimes. So sometimes that actually is like a strategy that people will do if it's like a personal brand like that. You can definitely switch your personal to business. You can do that right in the back end of Instagram and connect it to your Facebook page that way. Again, I think it is a case by case basis. If it doesn't make any sense that like, okay, it's just this random person, but they have this, then obviously you would have to make that decisions accordingly. But if you already kind of have like the hype behind it and the following behind it, and you're already talking about your business all the time anyway, I definitely think there is an opportunity there. Yeah.
Ashley, can you talk a little bit about Reels on Instagram, and if you have any businesses that use it?
So Reels is still fairly new. Reels is basically like TikTok on Instagram. It's pretty much the same thing. We have not had any clients necessarily play around with that yet. And I think kind of like what my very first slide was pretty much about is that we kind of let the bigger brands tinker with all of that first and kind of get the proof of concept before we spend all of our time and resources to do it. So yeah, I think there's definitely a little more testing that can be done, but I will say like it's definitely good to consume Reels and consume TikTok. I know a lot of people think TikTok's like for teenagers, which there are a lot of teenagers there too, but there are a lot of businesses who can get inspiration just from different ways that people create content there. So I think using like those ideas and kind of like the creativity behind it to inspire your other content is great. But for the most part, people, the vast majority of users are still in the stories or in the feed. And so we just like to reach the masses there. So we've been sticking to just those two rather than Reels.
Ashley, a few questions on just like different platforms. And you had mentioned at the beginning, when you're just starting out, it's good to focus on one, focus on Instagram or focus on Facebook and kind of build and grow from there. Yeah. What would you say for the businesses that you guys work on? Do the bulk of them, are they mostly promoting their business on Instagram? Is it mostly Facebook? Anything about LinkedIn and Twitter?
Yeah. So I will say 100% of our businesses are on Facebook. And that is actually where we find a lot of people tend to go down a rabbit hole, for lack of a better term there. Like when you go on Facebook, I think you're expecting to maybe read an article, or you're expecting to maybe go on a website and shop a little bit, which is why a lot of ours are on Facebook. And also just the fact that I said earlier in the presentation that the mom of the household is typically on Facebook as well. I will say a large majority are also on Instagram. Instagram tends to be a little bit of a younger demographic, but I think the moms are finally exploring on Instagram as well. They're not leaving Facebook yet. They're still definitely there. But so Instagram and Facebook are definitely the two biggest. Twitter, we only really have a couple, and I would say it's pretty much the ones that like have like a Bills sponsorship or like can talk about like sports, like things like that, because otherwise Twitter, there's just so much happening. Like people will tweet like 30 times a day that it's very, very hard to break through when you're a small business on Twitter, is what we found. So we only have a couple on Twitter that can enjoy like live tweeting certain things like that. And then Pinterest is more, we have like a crafty client on Pinterest, but yeah, I think to answer your question, for the most part, everything is pretty much on Facebook and Instagram. And those are definitely still the two biggest drivers of where we see the end goal of sales or leads or anything like
that. So I think we have like one more question maybe. Yeah. There were a few questions just about video, video versus static images. Any thoughts on that? Is one better than the other, more powerful, one that you should always use?
I think it depends on your end goal. Just because like if you're doing brand awareness, a lot of times video tends to work better because you can tell your story. But if you're just trying to get people to like click and go to your website, photos is actually what we found has worked really, really well, just because people, then it just eliminates distractions. And also keep in mind, most people are scrolling on their phones with their sound off. So if you do a video, make sure that they can still consume it with the sound off. So whether that be adding captions to it, or maybe it's not someone talking and it's just more so demonstrating the product. So Facebook always says design for sound off, delight with sound on. So whenever they turn their sound on, maybe there could be music behind it, or, you hear the voice, but make sure that they can still consume it with the sound off. And that's going to be really huge in making sure that your videos will perform.
Yeah, and I would say, as you guys go out to test and try some of these things, just think about it from your own perspective. You probably follow, local businesses online. And so think about things that make you click or make you stop to read or watch a video, and just keep that in mind, as you go. I think it can be really helpful. So I know we're just up on time. We did get a bunch of comments in the Q&A section that said, "Go Bills." I support that. We're psyched
Yes.
over at 43 North for the Bills. But that does conclude today's presentation. I want to give a big thanks to Social Yeah and to Ashley. I actually would just say, she mentioned it at the top, they have a resource for small businesses on Facebook, where you can go and follow the tips that they offer. You guys should jump in there. There's really great advice happening there. And then just from 43 North side of things, like I said, this is the first of a number of workshops we're going to be offering. We'll be opening up enrollment to these on a rolling basis, so just keep an eye on your email. The next one coming up will be a nice extension of this, and it's a little more focused on content creation and kind of being your own designer. And I can say I've worked in marketing my whole life, but a graphic designer I am not. So these are just some simple tips and tricks, I think, for those people that are just starting out in the social space, and some things you guys can do to use the power of your iPhone, for example, to create good content that people want to follow. So that's coming up on Thursday. And I think that pretty much covers it. This will be, we'll send out a link to the recording for anybody that attended today, and it will be posted on our YouTube page. I know there were a bunch of questions about that. So thank you to everybody for joining today. And yeah, go Bills.
Go Bills. Thank you.